Still, in small corners of the land, the old songs were whispered. The griots, the storytellers, carried memory in their voices. One day, they said, "Our drums will beat again." In the markets, the traders grumbled. Prices were fixed by men who had never planted a seed. In the villages, fathers sent sons to work on British rail lines that cut through sacred forest. The tracks glittered like silver snakes across the land. The elders warned, "A road that does not belong to you will one day lead you away from yourself." But the British were clever. They built schools and churches, not just to teach, but to tame. They said, "Education will make you free," yet they decided who could learn and what truth could be told. New leaders began to rise, young men who could read both English and the pain in their people's eyes. They wrote letters, spoke in meetings, and dreamed of a different dawn. But freedom was still far away, like thunder behind the hills. The old and young alike began to whisper a forbidden word: independence. In the east, where the rivers twist like shining snakes, the Igbo towns watched and waited. The British came with priests and soldiers, mixing prayers with orders. They broke the power of the elders and crowned warrant chiefs who served the British crown. The people were confused. "How can a stranger choose our leader?" they asked. But those who spoke too loud were punished. Still, in 1929, something changed. It began with women, market women who had grown tired of unfair taxes and insults. Thousands of them rose in protest. They danced, sang, and surrounded the offices of the colonial rulers. The British called it the Women's War, but to the people, it was the day mothers roared. Soldiers fired shots. Blood stained the earth. Yet their courage lit a spark across the land, proved that even the quiet ones could rise when pushed too far. That day, the river carried not just tears, but the promise of tomorrow. As years turned to decades, Britain tightened its grip. They joined the North and South together, two lands with different hearts, and called it one country. But it was not unity, it was convenience. Different peoples were forced to share one name, Nigeria. The British governors ruled from Lagos, sending orders like thunder from the coast to the desert. The people obeyed, but their hearts grew restless. Schools produced clever young men who could read British laws better than some of their rulers. Men like Azekayo, Owolowo, and Bello began to speak for the people. They said, "We are not children. This land is ours." The empire began to tremble. The whispers of freedom were growing louder. And somewhere deep inside the soul of the nation, the ancestors began to stir, waiting for the day their drums would sound again. But freedom does not come easily. The British did not want to leave the land that fed them. They tried to calm the people with promises, meetings, and slow talk. They said, "You are not ready to rule yourselves." The people answered, "We were rulers before you came." Protests filled the streets. Newspapers carried angry words. The youth shouted, "No more chains." Women joined the marches, priests blessed the crowds, and the British soldiers watched with uneasy eyes. In secret offices, leaders planned and dreamed. They knew the sun of empire was setting, but they also feared what might come after. Nigeria was big, diverse, and wounded. Unity would be a heavy crown. Still, the dream of freedom burned bright. Even the night could not hide it anymore. The land waited, holding its breath for the dawn that was coming. The years after the Second World War changed everything. The British soldiers returned home weak, and their empire grew tired. Around the world, nations were rising. India had broken free. Ghana was demanding her freedom. And in the heart of West Africa, Nigeria's fire began to burn. Everywhere, people talked of liberty. In schools, students formed clubs. In markets, traders argued about politics. Even the farmers in distant villages had heard the word independence. The British tried to slow the storm. They offered councils, elections, and promises of self-government. But the people had tasted their own strength. They no longer wanted to be ruled, they wanted to lead. Still, freedom had a price. The North, the South, and the East had grown apart under British lines. Different tongues, different faiths, different dreams. Britain had sown division before leaving, and the seed was beginning to grow. The land was preparing for freedom and for struggle. In Lagos, the city of noise and hope, crowds filled the streets with banners and songs. They shouted, "Nigeria must be free." The police stood watching, nervous, their hands on rifles. But the people did not stop. Leaders met under lantern light, Zik, Awo, Bello, men from different regions who wanted one thing, a new dawn. Newspapers printed bold headlines. Students risked prison for speeches. The British could see the end coming. Yet in the shadows, jealousy and fear whispered. Who will lead? Whose people will get the power? The unity that won the struggle began to crack before victory even came. But for now, hope was stronger. Drums beat through the night. The air smelled of rain and change. A nation was being born, but no one yet knew how hard birth could be. October 1st, 1960. The dawn broke golden over Lagos. Flags fluttered in the wind, green and white, colors of hope. People danced in the streets. Bells rang, and gun salutes thundered. The Union Jack came down slowly, and a new flag climbed the pole. Tears fell on old cheeks. Children shouted, "Freedom." The British governor smiled stiffly as the anthem rose. Nigeria had become free. But behind the joy, questions lingered. Could a land divided by tribe, faith, and tongue stand as one?